As we move to make construction net zero, Ryder Levitt Bucknell is changing the conversation so that sustainability is no longer considered as an add-on, but rather an integral part of the conversation that needs to happen at the outset of any project if we want to achieve better outcomes. Our reporter went to University Hospitals of Leicester NHS Trust to find out more.
The construction industry accounts for 40% of carbon emissions. So how do organisations like the NHS balance capital investment with achieving net zero ambitions? In Leicester, the NHS Hospitals Trust is on that journey. Together with Ryder Levitt Bucknell, it's working to deliver a sustainable approach to the reconfiguration of its estate. Alongside new construction will be the repurposing and reuse of existing buildings. Like many NHS trusts, the University Hospitals of Leicester has grown and evolved over many years, so making its estate sustainable is not without its challenges. And so on a site like this, lots of different buildings, many material types. Where do you start?
So on estates like this, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. What we need to do is look at it from a holistic perspective and then drill down into the component parts. So when we're starting to retrofit the estate, we're doing it in smaller pieces so it feels like a bit less of a challenge. In my role as a consultant, I see the biggest thing for us is changing the mindset of everybody that we work with. So being involved in projects really early on, making sure we've got that engagement, having those collaborative discussions to say, look, it's not going to cost the earth, but what we do want to do is make sure that we're getting true value out of whatever the construction project is that we're doing.
This change in mindset will also require a change in future skill sets.
The skill sets that we need to generate the solutions are far wider. So we're looking at other industries, other skills, other education routes to bring in skills into our industry to create the technologies of tomorrow that will deliver the sustainable buildings that we need looking to the future.
For Ryder Levitt Bucknell, a critical element of the process is to help clients identify the wider priorities, moving the focus from cost onto value.
The fundamental difference between cost and value is cost is literally a financial transaction at a moment in time. But value is more than that. Value is also about the impacts that the asset has as well. So, what are the impacts on the environment? What are the impacts on communities? What are the impacts on the users of the asset, etc.?
For Chief Executive Andrew Reynolds, with challenge comes opportunity.
It's not only about being innovative in the products that we use, but it's about being innovative in our thinking as to the way that we approach construction, full stop. And that does start at the earliest point by asking, should we build? So what we're ultimately looking to do is achieve an equilibrium of balance between economic, social value, environmental value, form, function, and impact of the building in the environment. So our advice would always be, let's get as much life out of a building as we possibly can, especially with the public money, to ensure absolute value for every pound being spent. But ultimately there is always an equilibrium point at which we cross over and say, actually, do you know what, it's beyond economic life, it's beyond sustainable life, and therefore let's have a completely different approach.
And that's down to planning.
And if there were one message that I wanted to get across to clients or funders or influencers, it was actually every hour you spend planning and thinking and sort of anticipating how you're going to design and build this will pay you back multiple times over during the design and construction process.
80% of the buildings that stand today will still be here in 2050. So when we think about the sustainability targets that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are striving for, and indeed many other global organisations by 2050, many of the buildings that we see around us now will still be standing then. So again, how we do look at the reuse of buildings, how we do repurpose as opposed to knock down and rebuild, again becomes key. So the one good thing I think for our industry is that through the Construction Leadership Council and Construct to Zero, all of the green institutions within the UK now have a common focal point from which to collate their efforts, all move in the same direction, and that's where organisations like us and indeed the whole industry supply chain can get aligned and work together to those outcomes in the future.